Welcome back, everyone. Here we are with the review of issue 89. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the Haven class medical station. So we talked about it'll mention it here, the Petra class, I think it was, medical frigate that these worked with. And so let's go ahead and get started on this. Vintex Construction Yards was responsible for building the huge, roughly cylindrical Haven-class space stations, measuring a staggering 652 meters in diameter. The company was well used to manufacturing, building, and transporting large-scale, largely self-sustaining facilities for use in far-flung colonies, and the requirements of a republic embroiled in the largest galactic war in remembered history saw Vintex modify its existing line of Haven-class vessel. The resulting medical station was used by the Republic throughout the Clone Wars. The Republic medical station could accommodate up to 80,000 patients at any given time. A crew of 150 was required to ensure the smooth operation of the station, while thousands of medical droids tended to injured clone troopers in specially created medical bays, which included row upon row of bacta tanks used for accelerated healing and treating the most severe injuries. We're going to do these little sections here, so we'll do the wheel configuration. The outer wheel of the station consisted of the primary docking and processing areas and main medical bays. 8 sections in all. The outer wheel was quartered with 2 medical bays linked inwards to one of 4 stationary hubs, which hosted treatment areas for more seriously injured troops. In turn, these secondary hubs were linked to a primary hub, the outer sections of which contained specialist treatment wards and the main laboratories. The crew quarters, comms tower, and command center were all also located in the primary hub. Clone medical officers. Although trained as combat troops like the rest of the clones, the Republic's medical officers were predominantly destined for service in non-combat roles. In any case, field medics were usually kept too busy tending the wounded to pick up a blaster. Aboard Haven-class medical stations, these officers worked under a Camino technician in conjunction with the onboard medical droids to assess and prioritize treatment of incoming wounded. Construction. The Haven-class medical station was powered by a large reactor located in the middle of a cylindrical structure that hung underneath its main core. Set onto the top of the reactor, a tower rose above the station, acting as the main control hub for the vessel. 8 principal docking ports lined the perimeter set at equal distances from one another. These docking ports allowed for support craft, specifically the Pelta class medical frigate. That's the one that we reviewed several issues ago. To dock with the medical station to unload injured soldiers without delay, while also loading up to return healthy soldiers to the battlefield. The medical stations were normally painted with the red and gray livery of other Republic vessels. So the question is it livery or livery? I've heard it both ways, but I usually say livery. Into action. The first modified Haven class to be commissioned by the Republic was Kalita Shoals Medical Center, which was operational from the outset of the Clone Wars. Having been towed to a point near the Naboo system, it would serve there for the majority of the conflict as the Republic casualties mounted, but came under attack from the forces of General Grievous, only being saved at the last by a squadron of B-Wings led by General Skywalker. Despite their vulnerability to attack, with no weaponry of their own, the Republic stations had to be escorted by Republic starships, which was not always possible. It was clear just how important the medical care delivered by the stations was to the war effort, and another 19 were commissioned. Each was towed to one of the Republic's sector armies around the galaxy. However, their vulnerability repeatedly made them a target for the Separatists, with several high-profile assaults on the stations seen throughout the war, even with the Republic doing its best to keep their locations secret during operations. This was one reason the Empire chose not to continue using stations when it took control of the Republic's military bases and vehicles after the bitter climax of the Clone Wars. Instead, the Haven-class medical stations that had saved the lives of countless clones were quickly and unceremoniously decommissioned, with many simply left abandoned, drifting in space. Supplies and skirmishes. After the violent conclusion of the Clone Wars, many of the defeated Republic Haven-class medical stations were abandoned. However, though unmanned, they were not completely ignored, as the stocks of supplies they held within their empty bays were targeted by scavengers or, as happened as the rebellion against the Empire grew into a civil war, rebel factions. Having joined the ranks of Phoenix Squadron, an elite unit tied to the budding Rebel Alliance, the Lothal rebels carried out a mission to one such medical station, but found the attentions of a nearby Imperial Star Destroyer piqued when the derelict station's power systems fired up. Before long, two Inquisitors had boarded the station, taking young Jedi Padawan Ezra Bridger hostage. It took all their cunning and courage for the rebels to free themselves from the clutches of their foes, only narrowly escaping with their lives and the salvaged supplies they had come for. Insignia, the complete Season 1 box set of Star Wars Clone Wars was revealed many secrets behind the designs and stories depicted in the multiple award-winning show. During one of 22 behind-the-scenes featurettes, audiences learned that when viewed from above, the Republic Medical Station was designed to look like the Republic insignia, with 8 sections circling a center core. The way the medical frigates delivered wounded troops to the station floating up from below came from an unusual source. An artist, Thang Li, explained, the idea of the way the ships docked at the base came from watching whales in the water swimming up and taking breaths. It looked really cool, and I thought Jedi cruisers floating up to the base like that would be awesome. Pretty cool. Fleet tactics, battle maneuvers. So this is interesting. Though rarely used exactly as described here, examination of these standard fleet maneuvers form a solid basis for cadets studying the principal range of tactics used in space battles through the ages. After all, while developments in the technology behind space battles has opened up myriad new possibilities to commanders, sometimes it can be beneficial to look back and see what has worked in some of the biggest engagements in recent galactic history. So the exchange and capping the T, we talked about those last time, so I won't go through those. Let's go through these ones. The brawl slash the fake. When all other tactics are exhausted, or when one or both sides are in disarray, a brawl is inevitable. In this situation, each individual captain has authority, rather than an admiral or fleet commander, and seeks simply to do as much damage to the enemy as possible for as long as possible. Charging in, guns blazing, tends to be a last desperate act. However, it can also be a fake. This tactic sees a fleet group charge the enemy in apparent disarray at a precise point in time, and, if it works in a maneuver resembling a ballet, the fleet group suddenly pulls around hard to present unified broadsides to the enemy. They can cap the T if possible, and even finish by swinging around to flank the last ships in the enemy battle lines. One of the most famous fleet brawls in naval history was the Battle of Coruscant towards the end of the Clone Wars. The Separatist fleet that made a surprise attack on Capital World destroyed many Republic Star Destroyers. The Republic commanders rallied magnificently, however, and the resulting brawl exposed the weakness of the slow-to-react droid captains, resulting in a Republic victory. The Slash. This tactic was refined by Rebel Alliance Commander Admiral Akbar to the point at which it became known as the Akbar Slash. There are few tactics, save perhaps the Fake, that rely so heavily on the experience and instinct of the fleet group leader. The Slash sees a capital ship line turn and make a hard run against a point in an enemy fleet group. If the commander has timed the turn right, an art in itself, then the line of their ships will pass between the enemy vessels in such a way that they can pound away at one or two key targets one after the other, all without much effective return fire. It's rare that any vessel's shields can withstand that kind of punishment, and a successful slash will almost guarantee an opponent's loses two ships. If the attacking ships are able to wheel sharply to port or starboard after passing through the enemy battle line, it's possible for them to make a devastating attack to the rear of the enemy line too. Of course, in the approach, all of the commander's ships must commit themselves totally. If the lead ship is slowed or disabled by enemy fire, collisions and a fatal disorder of the line are likely. No tactic is without risk, but the slash carries more than most. Variations, taking into account the vagaries of space, include a staggered and even overlapping deployment with vessels above and below the line of attack. The belly rub, perhaps perhaps the best example of a tactic that was based around an updated variant of a basic maneuver, was the one used by Jedi Padawan Ahsoka Tano to help break the Separatist blockade over Ryloth during the Clone Wars. Though her master, Anakin Skywalker, had taken out the Separatist command ship and had driven away the leader of the blockade, Tano was still faced with half a dozen Munificent-class frigates, with only a single Republic Venator Star Destroyer at her command. Her proposal was an inspired variation of the Fake. Charging in after Anakin's fire ship, he crashed a wounded Star Destroyer into the hull of the Separatist command ship. It looked like Tano was coming in for a brawling assault. At the last moment, she ordered the vessel to stand to and flip over, exposing its underside to the advancing frigates. This left the bridge of the Star Destroyer and the hangar decks out of harm's way. The shields and belly armor of the Republic ship held, allowing Ahsoka to launch multiple waves of Y-wing bombers. These swept up and over their mothership and ran devastating bombing runs down the spines of the munificent frigates, which were too close to each other and to the Star Destroyer to maneuver away in time to find effective point defense firing solutions. The Separatist fleet was utterly destroyed. Tano later dubbed her maneuver the belly rub. So there is fleet tactics. Now, in Guide to the Galaxy, we're going to visit Florrum, the pirate world. Florrum can be found in the Surtar sector in the Outer Rim. It was an arid, desert-like climate. It has an arid, desert-like climate, and the planetary surface features canyons and highlands. Even the flatter areas can prove hazardous. The Dasher fields, for example, should be traveled with care, as they are filled with geysers that spray dangerous sulfurous acid. The region is also inhabited by hulking scalders, large tusked mammals that can tell when and where the geysers will erupt, and so provide a helpful clue for those who pay attention. The scalders stay close to the geysers as the minerals and liquid thrown up by them nurture some of the only greenery on Florrum, namely hardy lichens that spread out as far as the moisture from the eruptions allows. Florrum was chosen by the Weequay pirate captain Hondo Anaka as the main base of operations for his pirate gang, which consisted mostly of other Weequay. In the depths of a canyon, the gang constructed a base with landing zones, a large detention area, a marketplace, and a dining hall. However, this was not Hondo's only hideout on Florrum. He had only he had also secretly built a spaceship hangar that contained some of his prized possessions, such as the Fortune and Glory, which we've talked about those in past issues, and for a time, Slave One. Hondo was especially proud of the latter, which he acquired, repaired, and repainted after an incident during the Clone Wars with a Jedi Padawan and Hunter Aurra Singh left the ship severely damaged. Aside from these, there was little else to draw anyone to Florrum, which, for a time, suited the gang perfectly. World of Wonder. An occasional visitor to Florrum was Prego and his traveling world of wonder. Prego, a Doug, would sometimes visit Hondo's base with his carnival act, which included Twi'lek and Alina entertainers, a Gamorrean clown, and a Togruta named Karshota. Prego's circus also featured a collection of creatures including a Famba, a Dalgos, Convories, and Prego's personal Narglatch. Once en route to Hondo's base in his ship, the Gamble, Prego encountered a troop of 5 young acrobats, the Animal Instincts. Little did Prego know that the acrobats whom he brought into his act were Jedi younglings planning to rescue a fellow Jedi who had been taken prisoner by Hondo. The performance turned out to be one of the most chaotic of Prego's long career as the young Jedi enacted their daring rescue. However, the pirates' actions would inevitably, before long, draw the attentions of some pretty powerful forces to them. It was Hondo Ohnaka's pride and his thirst for credits that brought Florrum to the attention of almost impressively both Confederacy and independent systems and the Galactic Republic. Hondo Ohnaka's imprisonment of Count Dooku on Florrum was to be the start of an apparent campaign to take on all the leading figures on both sides of the Clone Wars. For no sooner had he sparked a lasting uh, enmity between his pirate gang and the separatist leader, for whom Hondo demanded a sizable ransom. The wily pirate also managed to capture 2 of the Republic's most trusted generals in Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, taking great amusement in holding them in the same cell as their arch-rival Dooku. In an attempt to bargain for the lives of the Jedi, Senatorial Representative Binks was sent to Florrum with Dooku, and the Jedi subsequently being able to escape Florrum after Binks accidentally shut down the base's power grid. As a parting shot, Kenobi warned Hondo that his dangerous plan had probably earned him Dooku's wrath. This proved to be a justifiable concern. Visitors to Florrum now who, for reasons known only to themselves, decided to seek out the old pirate base will find only a ruin, picked clean by scavenging locals and by Hondo before he finally gave up on Florrum. When Dooku had time to turn his attention again to Hondo Ohnaka, he sent a significant force to the desert world, led by none other than General Grievous himself. The commander of the droid armies sent bombers in to destroy much of the base, and his battle droids gutted the vehicles and ships outside it for any recyclable parts. Back to obscurity. There are still colonists huddled together in small settlements dotting the surface of Florrum. However, without the business Hondo and his gang attracted and the trouble he brought, the unremarkable planet has once again fallen into obscurity. Behind the scenes here, initial designs for Florrum showed a pirate base very different from the final version. One of Star Wars The Clone Wars conceptual designers, Russell Chong, said, "Initially I was working on a different look for the pirate base on Florrum using volcanic rocks that have a geometric shape, but on a much larger scale. I thought the inhabitants of Florrum created the cities inside these massive octagonal tubes. So originally it was going to look different." So in this issue, we basically attached a lot of what was necessary for the lower hull. as you can see, we still don't have, I didn't put the lights on, but that is something that needs to get taken care of, and I will probably be working on that shortly. In the next issue, issue 90, we're going to have some detail parts and some um, more framework. These look like upright supports that will probably get attached somewhere on the lower hull to help support the upper hull, and these will be side frameworks as well. So we'll see how that goes and see what we need to do there. Um, if time permits, we may have to add some additional work because uh, kind of running behind. I have a lot of things that need to get done, namely finishing up the painting of the mandibles. I have to clean up some paint because uh, being impatient caused some issues there, but need to get that cleaned up so we can paint like the reds and whatever, all the other colors that need to get painted. But there is that to take a look at. And then we have a lot of these colors to do on the upper hull that need to get done sooner rather than later. So with that, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching, and may the force be with you always.